Hey, you stinkalicious people, and welcome back to another episode of 90 Day Fiancé, The Last Resort. This week is episode 6, and this week we're also getting back to the therapy, and I think the therapy is doing more harm than good. 9 times out of 10, the couples are leaving angry. So let's jump right in to see what kind of chaos the therapist caused this week. This episode starts off from the last, as always. Florian was getting into Jasmine's face for spilling his drinks, and everybody is trying to get him to step back. Eventually, Gino gets in between them and people start to separate them a little bit. But while people are separating them, Jasmine is going off telling him that he's a bad influence. And Florian is just calling her all kinds of bitches. And he even threatens her, saying if she spills his drink again, see what happens. So I'm like, what were you gonna do if she spilled another one of your drinks? Were you about to hit her? It's always so weird seeing people get into an altercation, but then not seeing the producers come in. But I guess they usually don't come in until they actually start seeing people like swinging on each other. But it was still like, I felt like that went on a little bit longer than it should. Nobody should even let Florian get to Jasmine. But the whole time Florian is going off on Jasmine, Stacy is trying to get him to stop. She's just yelling at him, telling him to chill out. But finally, the guys are able to rile him down. And right as everything starts to calm down, Ari and Benny come in. And the minute Benny gets over to the guys, Florian snaps back into party mode. He's like, oh, more dudes? Let's go. Let's get drunk. Trying to get more drinks. Now, Stacy is, of course, embarrassed because all the husbands at this point are embarrassing their wives. First with Gino with that really weird hug with Natalie, and now Florian. But she goes into saying that she's dealt with this before, the angry outbursts and things like that, and she just apologizes to Jasmine. And of course Jasmine and all the other girls are like, it's not your fault, you're not the one that did it. But she just breaks down in tears, and it always sucks seeing people cry, but I've seen Darcy and Stacy cry so much. Like, I'm not laughing at the situation, it's just like I wanna be free. It's like how they're crying. The whole situation was serious and I felt so bad, but I've seen them cry about a billion times at this point. And while Stacy is talking to the girls saying that Florian is drunk, she's also saying the word drunkie, which I don't remember her saying that at any point. I know Florian says it, but this whole time I thought he was just saying it like that because, again, you know, his English is not that great. But now I'm thinking, like, does he say that because she says that, or does she say that because he says that? But she was having a serious conversation with them, being like, he was drunky. When he gets drunky, he gets mad, and it's like, why are you saying it like that? Now, over in the guys area, Benny is asking what's going on, what did he miss? And Rob goes into basically being like, it's the woman's fault. If the women never came in, none of this ever would have happened. They wanted to come in here and squash our fun. And Sophie was the only woman over there, so she was the only person to try to defend, not even really defend, she was trying to see it from both sides really, but she was just trying to explain to them, like, we weren't coming in here to like squash the fun or anything like that. But the guys just go into saying that Jasmine is controlling, that's why Gino's not happy, she needs to leave him alone, and that she's only happy as long as he's happy around her. Like, he can't be happy by himself. And again, Sophie keeps trying to be like, no, that's not the case at all. She was actually concerned for him because look at how drunk he is. Look at how he just held Natalie. She didn't go into that much depth, but like she should have. It's like, is nobody seeing what everybody, well, I guess because all the dudes are drunk, so they're all just like in a drunken blur right now, but they're just going off saying that the women ruined everything. But eventually people start leaving, and Jasmine tries to get Gino to come on, but he's like, no, I'm staying here with my boyfriends, hanging out with his dudes, until Stacy comes over and's like, Florian, let's come on, we're getting out of here. And he's like, okay, you know, I go with my wife, and he leaves. And that's when Gino's like, oh, well, I guess I'm gonna go too. And while they're leaving, Jasmine was being a little extra. She's just like yelling, being like, you guys are a bad influence to my husband, shame on you, shame on you. She's just sitting there yelling at Rob and Brandon while she's leaving, and it's like, okay, the situation has already died down. Just leave, take your husband. Now Jasmine walks Gino to the room and gets him laid down, and he's like stumbling everywhere, so she's trying to get him to lay down, and he's like, get off of me, Jasmine, leave me alone. So she ends up going to the couch, laying down by herself, and it's so funny because, you know, usually when they have like an interview, it's always like after what happened, like in a separate like room or like down the hallway or just like on a completely different day. They're doing that whole interview thing, but no, they break it down right there. They just start questioning him right there in the room while Jasmine's on the other side of the wall. But honestly, Gino didn't say much of anything because he was just drunk as hell. He just goes into explaining why he was upset, and then he goes into be like, man, I was having so much fun throwing the 3-pointers. You know, I was an NBA star.
I am upset that Jasmine came up and knocked our drinks out of our hand. They told me how to play beer pong, and I did pretty good because I sunk one from the 3-point line. Ding. 3-pointer, man. I'm gonna chill.
Now we get to Stacy in Florian's room, and of course Stacy is still upset, and she's like, I do not want to sleep with you, so you can either go sleep on the couch or I can, you decide. And Florian is like, no, you stay in the bed, you're not going anywhere. And she's like, no, we're not sleeping together. So he goes into being like, who is she? Who the fuck is Jasmine to say anything to me? So Stacy tells him that he was being disrespectful, how he embarrassed her, that he was acting barbaric. And I think I said something about this last episode. I can't remember. I remember at least thinking about it, but he whistles a lot. There'll be random points in the episode where you just hear random whistling while somebody's talking, and it's just flooring. But he replies and whistles.
You embarrassed me. You were like
take a
barbaric.
Who the fuck you think you talking to?
And then goes on to say that why is he going to take advice or listen to anybody who is wanting to open up their marriage and basically be a hoe? Why would he want to listen to anybody who's going to ruin their marriage like that? But of course, Stacy is still upset. She's not going to, move from the situation. So he's like, well, I guess I'll go sleep on the couch. Now we get to the next morning and Natalie gets a knock on her door. And of course, it's Josh. So Josh comes in, they're doing the little small talk, and he's like, oh, did you miss me? And she's straight up like, nope. And I was so prepared for Natalie to go off on him. Like when she went off on him before he left, saying that like she could catch the Gano just from across the table, I was like, he deserves to be gone off on.
What do you mean by that?
He deserves to get yelled at and things like that. But the reason and the timing and the way she did it back then wasn't appropriate, so I wasn't feeling that. So when he came back today, I was so prepared to see Natalie use her crazy right here and then. But so she tells him no, that she doesn't miss him, and then she goes into some weird boat analogy. She's always using analogies apparently, and he's like, sometimes I understand what she's talking about, but sometimes I'm like, I just gotta nod my head and pretend like I don't know what the hell she's talking about. And this time around she's like, so you're looking at the sexy boats over there, the boats with the bikinis and the sexy bodies, but you don't come over here to my boat, and I'm all alone in this boat, but you're going over to the sexy boat. He's like, But she just keeps being like, oh, you're looking at sexy boats. You got eyes for other sexy boats, but I'm standing over here in this boat all alone. And it's like, what are you talking about? But he eventually just asks, how did the conversation go with the girls? And she tells him, I have some texts between you and Sophie. And of course, he immediately tries to start lying. I had one conversation with the girl, and she's like, yeah, for months. And he's like, no, in person. But she tries to just cut the crap right there. She's like, listen, I have the text, I'm going to read them. Why do I sound like a weird vampire? She's like, I have these texts that Sophie gave me. I'm gonna read them. And you can tell he is sweating. He's gulping. So she ends up reading off the text where it's saying that he is gonna be in the last resort and that he can't stay in the same room as her because she's too crazy. And she reads that off and he's like, oh, no. You misinterpreted it. I kind of just wrote it weird. Nah, I must have written it wrong. How else are you supposed to interpret that message? I cannot stay in the same room as her. How do you interpret that message, sir? So anyway, she's like, okay, and then goes on to the next message, and she tries to show him, and he's like, no, you read it. You read it. And she's like, we are planning a trip to Vegas, and he's like, wait, he yells it. And then he goes on to try to be like, oh, there was other people that were coming. It wasn't just gonna be me and her.
No way I can stay with that girl, lol.
Yeah. Well, that was not worded correctly.
Why you W?
Wait, read it.
We are planning.
We are planning. Wow, that doesn't say come to Vegas with me, baby. There was like a group of 7 of us.
And Natalie asked such a good question. She's like, then why didn't you invite me? And he just goes over it, just keeps talking. And then she never goes back to that question. She keeps going on. Like, I don't even think she understands that sometimes she be asking the right questions, but she just wants to so much that she gets past it that she just starts talking. So she asks the legitimate question, why didn't you invite me? And he just keeps talking. And she's like, oh, okay. And just goes off on something else. But eventually it gets nowhere. He basically just starts gaslighting her. He's like, you're always trying to focus on the past. You don't want to move forward with me. You're always doing this. Why are you trying to focus on the past? Why can't we focus on the now? Without answering any of her questions, without getting any legitimate answers. But she does end up trying to talk to him just a little bit more, and he grabs her face and just starts kissing her, and he's like, we're just gonna focus on the present. We're not even gonna think about those texts. Those texts weren't real. You're tripping. You got brain rot. And now Natalie pisses me off once again with the logic. The logic doesn't make sense. In her talking head is like, I can see what he's doing. I know exactly what he's doing. He's trying to trick me. But you know what? The therapist told me to start trusting Josh more. So I'm gonna go ahead and trust him this time. You can literally see it, and now out of all times, out of all these years, you're like, I'ma just trust him. Even though you can see it plain as day. Not even like an inkling of like a stomach feeling. Oh, I can see it. No, you can see, you have the text messages. And you're just gonna let it slide because the therapist was, oh my gosh, I don't know. I feel like this is probably why they've been together for 3 years, because she probably, obviously he gonna keep coming back for the you know if she keeps giving it up, but she keeps coming back because she keeps having excuses on why to trust this guy, why to come back to this guy, why to keep talking to this guy. And it's like, she doing it to herself. She can go another 3 years without seeing his apartment. I do not care. But now it's time for them to all get together, get in the cars, and head off to their group therapy. And it doesn't seem like any of the couples are in a happy mood. Even Julia and Brandon, who didn't have any kind of fight or anything I haven't seen, they were even coming out bickering. She's like, I can't believe you would put your dirty feet in the bed. You walk around barefoot and then put your feet in the bed. And he's like, I can't believe you won't shut the fuck up.
I can't believe you are going to bed last night with dirty feet when you're walking in the street. I can't believe you've done this.
I can't believe
Good morning, guys.
Won't stop talking.
Now they start driving off, and they have their whole little thing in the cars. In one of the cars, obviously Florian is going off about Jasmine. He's just recapping Josh about the night, and he's like, she is so fucking annoying. I do not like her. I don't like her at all. But in the other car, Jasmine, Sophie, and Julia all are like, he's an asshat. Like, we don't like him. He's a douchebag. Now we go back to the other car with Josh and Natalie, and Josh is asking Natalie about the girls. How did it go? And Stacy puts in her 2-piece saying that she was there when Natalie saw the text, and she saw how much it affected Natalie. And Josh, of course, he just keeps lying. He just don't know how to not lie. He goes in to be like, I never touched her, which I bet you if she did come down there and you guys got to that point, you would have. So it wasn't like you didn't touch her by choice. Like, you had no choice, my guy. She was not coming down there. And then he goes obviously back into how the messages were completely friendly, how they were blown out of proportion. People are just being too serious about it. And Ari, who I feel like isn't even there half the time. Like, even when they went out to the bar club thing, she was gone the whole night. So she don't even know what's going on. But even she was like, I don't trust him. He just seems too charismatic, but he's definitely leading Natalie on. Like, there's no way. But in the car, she's straight up just like, do you trust him, Natalie? Like, do you trust what he's saying? And Natalie goes into the whole like, oh, he said we're in the here and the now, and basically, yes, I'm gonna trust him because we're starting fresh right now. He's here for me right now. She helpless. We can't help this one. Now we get back to the other car and the girls are just joking around, and Jasmine asks, I wonder if Josh is even back, if he even is going to come back. And Sophie's like, should I text him? Should I see if he's gonna come back to the retreat? Like, just being messy as hell. And honestly, again, here for it. Then we go back to the other car. I know it's a lot of bouncing around. I know they were just going back and forth, but we go back to the other car and Ari's like, do you think they're talking crap about us over there? And it's so funny that she asks, it had to have been a producer that told her, hey, you need to ask this. Cause ain't nobody talking crap about you, Ari. You haven't even been around half of the show. So anytime they went out, Ari and Benny also went out on their date. So she's never around really. So nobody's talking crap about you, I can tell you that much. So it was just really funny that she was the one that brought it up. But of course, Florian, which is the person they're talking crap about, is going off being like, oh, fuck the women. Women are devils and the guys were the angels.
You're entitled to your wrong opinion.
But now the cars pull up on this beautiful lake. It looks so pretty out there. Even Rob is excited. He's like, oh, nature. This is definitely going to bring us closer together. And I'm not an outside person at all. I love being indoors. But that rare time when I go outside and there's a beautiful view wherever I'm going, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is kind of nice. I should do this more often. But they end up walking down a trail and get to the edge of the lake. And of course, the therapists are there. But there's also a row of kayaks there. And when they walk up, the therapists are like, first things first, put on your life vest. As if they were gonna fall into like the 1 inch of water and like drown. But they're like, we're not starting until you put your life vest on. Like, they didn't even get into the boat for a hot minute. So they were just standing around with the vests on. But the therapist goes into asking them who likes to lead, who's the leader in the relationship. And every couple, you know, they had their person, you know, but Jasmine and Gino both raised their hands. So they're real conflicting, basically being like, I'm the alpha, I'm the leader, I'm the one to trust. They wanted to lead and Gino was like, our boat is gonna sink if she's the leader. But the therapist ends up saying that they're doing this exercise because he wants them to practice both having a leadership skill in something, and sometimes one person is going to have to lead, but having your partner there is supposed to also like help you get to that like finish goal. So you guys are both leading in a way, so it's like a 50-50 pool, but sometimes one person is gonna have to speak up and lead. Now they tell them they're gonna do a rower and thrower type game, and now when they explain these rules, I'm even going to show you the little clip because I don't want there to be any confusion. The rules are the rules. The first rule is that you cannot swap your roles. Once you're in your role, you cannot swap. If you're a rower, you stay a rower. If you're a thrower, you stay a thrower. You do not swap. And the second rule is if you're a rower and you're using the oar, the thrower cannot touch your oar. And if you're a thrower and you're throwing the ball, the rower cannot touch your ball. So you guys cannot touch each other's things.
Rowing a kayak and throwing a ball. 2 additional rules. 1, you have to stay in your role. You cannot switch roles. The other rule is the rower cannot put their hands on the ball, and the thrower cannot put their hands on the oar.
After explaining this, he tells everybody to get into their groups, and pretty much all the girls were throwers and all the guys were rowers other than Josh and Natalie. Josh decided he was going to be a thrower and Natalie decided she was going to be a rower. Now the therapist goes on to explain the game and how they're going to do it. They're going to get into their boats. They're going to row their boat out to the boat that's in the middle of the lake, grab a ball, untie it from the boat, row over to this dock, throw a ball into the hoop, and then they're going to row their boat back to the shore.
Oh, yeah, no. You know what? No. Yeah. Yeah, no. Yeah, no. Yeah, no.
And the therapist goes on to say that they're looking to see who's going to take this as more of a leadership thing or a dictatorship. Now, the therapists inform him that whoever wins, whoever gets back first, is going to win a prize. And this is where the whole game got turned up on its belly. Because now people are like, oh yeah, we gotta win this game. It wasn't just a friendly therapy group thing anymore. It was like they were gunning for each other. So as they hear that they are going to get a reward for whoever wins, Josh and Natalie take it upon themselves to go ahead and switch their roles.
You have to stay in your role. You cannot switch roles.
He decides to be a rower and she decides to be a thrower, and they whisper it amongst themselves. Need you to also remember that. They just tell each other, hey, you were gonna switch roles really quick. Now, the reason they decided to switch their roles, well, Josh said he was going to be a thrower at first because he thought he was some NBA track star or something. He was like, oh, she's gonna row it halfway down and I'm gonna sink a three-pointer halfway across the lake. Huh? What happens if you miss that? You still gotta row all the way over there. So he thought she was gonna get halfway down the lake and he was just gonna, but he's like, you know what? No, since all the guys are gonna be rowing, they're gonna be a lot faster and I don't wanna do that to you, so I'm gonna be the powerhouse. And as the therapist tell them to get ready, set, go and hop into their boats, everybody hops in and gets going. When they start getting out there, Brandon is hauling ass. Like, he is already halfway down the freaking lake. But right behind Brandon and Julia is Rob and Sophie. They're not neck and neck. Like I said, there was definitely some space between Brandon and the rest of the people, but Rob and Sophie was definitely second in place. But then Josh is conniving, decides he's gonna do a pit maneuver, hit the back of his boat and turn his boat sideways. So now he's facing the completely opposite direction of where he was supposed to be going. So not only did they cheat and switch roles, they cheated and hit somebody else's boat. They are dirty, okay? Now everybody has pretty much made it to the boat, one after the next. And right when I was thinking this, somebody popped up and said the same thing. When they got up to the balls, I was like, I bet you most of these women have nails on, and I know it's gonna be impossible to get those knots out because it wasn't just like a basic little bunny loop knot or anything. It was like, it was tied up in there, like they had to take it out. And Sophie, right after I was thinking that, pops up and was like, I have these nails. If I knew I had to do this, I would have taken them off. I was like, damn, that sucks. But as the order follows, it pretty much is the same thing. Brandon and Julia, they got to the boat first, so she got her ball out. Josh and Natalie got to the boat next, so they were right behind them. And you know what? I'm not even gonna focus on the rest of the people for the race anyway, because they were way behind by this point. They were, every single one of them was smoked by Brandon and Julia, Josh and Natalie. So Brandon and Julia and Josh and Natalie are neck and neck, and Brandon's slowing down a little bit because I think he put all of his power, his steam into the beginning of the row. So Josh ends up passing him up. When he's passing him up, Natalie, she is a witch. She's literally a witch, a bad witch. A witch that eats little kids and lives in a cookie house in the forest. So Natalie and Josh end up getting their ball in, but Brandon and Julia are right behind them still. So Julia swoops in and gets her ball in right when Natalie does. So again, still neck and neck, and Brandon is like hoofing it, and he's like, I'm not very good at cardio. I lift. That's all I do is I lift weights. So I am running on a steam right now. Now to get back to the other couples, they're pretty much there. It's not even like a big competition anymore. I feel like some of them are still taking it seriously, but in the terms of Jazz and Gino, she's hyping him up, being like, you know, you may be old as dust. You're older than everybody here by 1,000 years, but look at you go. You're not quitting. You're not giving up. You're getting it, baby. You go, my old man.
And you know what, baby? I'm very proud of you because don't take it wrong, but you're the oldest guy.
Yeah.
And you are killing it, baby. You are killing it.
Now we get back to Josh and Natalie and Brandon and Julia, and they are neck and neck. But Brandon, like he said, he lifts, so he starts running out of steam and starts falling behind. So Josh and Natalie were the first people to make it to the shore. Best believe when Brandon and Julia popped up, they already were like, "You guys are some cheaters." And pretty much every single couple after that that got back to the lake or to the shore was like saying the same thing, like, "You guys are cheaters." And Natalie, she is so full of herself. She's like, "We won because we the smartest, the prettiest, the cutest, the coolest." Like just hyping themselves up. And it's like, oh girl, you guys won because you guys are cheaters. And even Julia's like, "You guys are cheating during a group therapy." Like that shows your character. But the therapists get them riled down and ask them how it was. And most of them said that they have fun. It was pretty cool, but they just wish they weren't playing with a group of cheaters. The therapist specifically points out Rob and Sophia because they're leaning away from each other. And he's like, "What's up with that? What's going on here?" And Rob just says that Sophie was just very unmotivating. Instead of being like, "Go Rob, go," she was like, "Why are you doing this? Why aren't you going fast enough? Go, 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 go." So he was not very happy with that. And Sophie was like, "No, I wasn't doing it because you were bad. They were cheating." And she said she was trying to go off on them. But he's like, "But you were taking your anger out on me though. I was the one that was in the boat." But thankfully, especially since Rob and Sophie are fighting over them, everybody's calling them cheaters. The therapists are like, "You know what, Josh and Natalie, I think you guys are some cheaters. You guys cheated." And they go on to tell them that they broke literally the first rule that they had was to not switch roles. And both Josh and Natalie are like, "We told everybody. You guys knew we were switching roles."
Come on, bro. I'll be able to go faster, and I'll get us closer.
Okay.
No excuses, right hand on the Bible. God can strike me down if I'm lying. That motherfucker's cheating! Take my word!
But you remember, they whispered it to themselves. So everybody's like, "No, you didn't. And it doesn't even matter if you told us that in the first place, because that was literally the first rule." So they end up getting disqualified. And it's so funny because when the therapist is talking to them about the rules, they're all singing, "Disqualified, disqualified." So everybody's pumped when they hear the therapist being like, "Sorry guys, you guys did not win this one." And they gave the reward to Julia and Brandon. And now Natalie is, of course, putting on her pouty face, saying that she feels attacked, that I've been bullied and traumatized. Like, girl. And she's like, "You guys are all cheaters. I won.
I do feel attacked right now because instead of saying congratulations, people attack me and they taking my win from me. It's not right. We're winners. So when we won, you're not fine. You're cheating and it's not fair and we won.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no. Yeah, no.
But Natalie goes on to say that they're all haters because she's stronger, she's better, and she's the fairest of them all. But again, Julia and Brandon won the competition, and their reward is a night in the honeymoon suite at the resort. And everybody's cheering, and Julia does not look happy about it at all. She was like, "Oh, damn it."
What have we been?
You guys actually won a night in the honeymoon suite of the resort.
Oh my God, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
Now, the therapist said they're going to wrap this all up and go talk about it. And before they leave, I just want to say I kept getting distracted by Stacy because she is that bathing suit that she was wearing, so hot. And then her hair was like just a perfect flowy, like she banging. Like, I wish her and Darcy wouldn't like ultra filter their pictures, because like just looking at them normally, they're beautiful ladies. They could have amped it down a little bit on the surgery, and even now that the surgery has settled a little bit more, it doesn't look as crazy as when they first got it. But still, they were beautiful women even before all the surgery. But there was just some scenes of her when they're all talking about this, she was just standing there, her hair was flowing, her body was curving. I was like, yeah. But they all end up going to to some area, there's chairs set up, and they get sat down and they start talking and they get right into it. And the therapist asks Gino, how did it go? How is he feeling about it? And Gino at first is saying that, basically saying all the things that went wrong, like they couldn't untie the ball, he wasn't fast enough, all the things that went wrong. And the whole time he's explaining it, you can see Jasmine just sitting there like, God damn it, man, I can't do anything right. But after he explains everything that went wrong, he goes into being like, and with all that, Jasmine was calm. I can't believe it. I did not expect her to be calm. See, this is what I want for my relationship. And you can just tell her face just like, it started to light up. You could just see the sun rays just beaming from her face when she started hearing what he was like actually putting out there. And everybody's like, damn my foot tonight.
No.
And then they asked Stacy and Florian how it went, and Stacy, pretty much the same thing that kind of Gina was saying, like, well, a little bit different, but they had bickering. They were bickering a little bit, being like, hey, why aren't you getting the ball? Yeah. But at the end of the day, they didn't quit. They got to the end, and she's like, that's exactly how our relationship is. Like, we fight, we bicker, but we're never gonna give up on each other. We're never gonna quit. And now the therapist specifically calls out Sophie, and they're like, Sophie, how was it? And she's like, oh, Rob usually goes first. And she's like, no, Sophie, how was it? So she ends up explaining that Sophie was trying to tell him what to do, but he's not really listening. And she applies that to the real relationship. She says that she will tell him to do something specific, and instead of doing that thing, he does what he thinks needs to be done. And then they go over to Rob, and Rob is like, they're applying it to the boat thing. He's like, I literally had one job, and that job was to row. So what else could I do? And the therapist brings up, oh, so you're doing the best that you possibly could with what you had. And he's like, exactly. All I could do was row, and she was mad that I wasn't rowing good enough. And then he goes on to compare the boat with the relationship, not like Natalie's weird sexy boat analogy, but he basically says that she's in the front just holding the ball, and I'm in the back using all my power, all my strength to row us, and she's thinking that she's doing all the work. I'm putting in the power, getting the boat going. All she's doing is holding the ball, and she thinks she's doing everything. And Natalie's ass has to chime in because she was bullied and traumatized because she was attacked. Has to put in her 2-piece. And it's like, it's because she's lazy.
We comprehend the reality of she's holding a ball and just in the front seat just waiting, and I'm behind her rowing, but she feels like she's doing everything.
She's lazy, that's it.
Shut the fuck up.
And then she goes into the worst cackle. She's literally a witch. Like, there is no way she's not. Well, she probably isn't, because she's doing a horrible job at getting Josh. I don't know what she is, but she's a thing, that's for sure. But she starts cackling. And so Sophie, just ignores it, and she's trying to talk and basically get her point across about the relationship, like just saying the same thing, saying, oh, he doesn't really listen to what I'm saying, like I need that reassurance. The whole time she's talking, Natalie is cackling.
I don't know, I don't know how I can be clearer with what I want. It just feels like he doesn't get it. So it's fine. When I ask him to do something, he does what he thinks he should do instead of what I'm asking him to do.
So eventually Sophie is like, hey, that's disrespectful. Can you stop doing that? Like, we're trying to have therapy here. Can you stop? And then she goes right back into her thing. Oh, I need reassurance. He's not doing this, not doing that. Natalie still cackling. And finally, somebody snaps, and it's Julia. She's like, this is not about you right now. You always try to make it about yourself. Nobody give a fuck about you. Stop trying to make it about yourself. It's me. Nobody cares about you. This is why Josh don't want your ass. Okay, maybe she didn't go that hard. Maybe that's just a me. She goes off on her, being like, you just need to shut the hell up.
We got it. I'm doing it. Like, I wanted to hear it back, and I didn't.
It's not about you right now. It's about everybody. Because it's too much. Look at me. It's not about you right now. Done. I mean, too much.
And Josh is just sitting there hiding his face. Like, he's like, I don't know this woman. I'm just here. I don't even know why I'm here, but I'm here. And the one thing that makes me so mad is like the therapist just sat there looking at her like she was crazy. Aren't you supposed to be controlling the situation? I understand you can't really do too much of anything, but you could at least be like, hey, can you not do that? If you want to be disrespectful, you can leave the therapy group. There you go. There's a tree over there. Go laugh at that damn tree. You sure love to hug trees, don't you? But no, they just sat there. And the only time they said something is when Julia got hyped. I wanted to straight windmill my fists into NATALIE and the therapist's face. Like, how dare you try to say something to Julia while NATALIE is literally releasing the squelchy demons out of her throat. Like, but they end it right there, as they always do. They always end it on like the biggest part of the... Obviously do that's just how TV works, but damn it, they always do it. It's like, please, can we just like conclude the conclusion? You know what I mean? But they end it there with NATALIE cackling off into the distance. And now next week's episode looks like it's going to be, I don't want to say less drama filled, because all of it is dramatic as hell, but it's going to it has more serious tones to it instead of like the cackles of the weasel goblin.
I feel this anxiety now so bad. When they say like, I don't want kids, this is such a painful, I don't know how to explain, but I'm so scared to be in reality.
You know that you've hurt me so bad over the years. And I just want you to admit it, that what you've done has really hurt me and destroyed me.
You're a liar. No, you don't. No.
I've broken up with him 3 times. He would come back and he would say, we work on our relationship. You lied to me. What we are, what you and I, what we are.
I think that's why we're here trying to figure it out. Yeah,
so tell it. I'm your girlfriend. Who I am.
Oh, wow.
No, you cannot do this to me.
You ain't nothing but a bag of potato chips. Stale potato chips. I do not like her at all. Like, I do not want to see her on my screen anymore. Don't bring her back to the single life at all. At first it was crazy, like, oh, she's crazy, but now like just seeing her outright attack people and be this way, like, I knew she was crazy, but like, she's just mean. She's just an awful, pitiful person. Like, and I don't care. I do not care. She's had plenty of chances to redeem herself. Now, I know a lot of you guys have a New Year's resolution, and I'm sure it's to get as swole as Brandon. So to get a couple of finger push-ups in, why don't you go ahead and hit that like and subscribe. But thank you guys for coming and watching. It's always appreciated. You guys have a beautiful day. Bye.